Good morning, Informa Algebra 2. We're going to get started on section 9.2 notes, which is about synthetic division. And now this is going to be a lot nicer than long division. It's kind of a shortcut for certain items you can divide. So synthetic division is long division, where you can get rid of all the variables and exponents. Isn't that just nice? Now, some key points to remember here are this only works for lead one linear binomials that are divisors, for the divisors. Okay, so lead one linear binomial divisors. For example, we have x plus 4, x minus 5, so they have a lead 1 for your variable. This variable is linear, and there's only two terms. It's a binomial. Now, what does not work is if you have an x squared piece, or if you have a number in front of your singular x, okay? Doesn't work. These are no-goes. You can't use synthetic division if you got something like this happening. Okay, so it has to be x plus or minus some number, okay? Not a number in front of the x, not an x squared or an x to the third, just an x with no number in front of it, okay? Technically, there's a 1 in front of this, but nothing more than that 1. No 2's, no 3's, no 100 millions, nothing. Now, another key thing to remember is you're going to be reversing the sign of the constant or the number without a variable when setting up. So if you have x plus 4, for example, when we set up, we're going to use a negative for it. This is going to make more sense in about 5 seconds. Okay, so for our first example, we have x to the third minus 11x squared plus 27x plus 4. Well, our first step is to check the divisor is a linear binomial. Okay, now we got to remember which one's the divisor and which one is the dividend. So this first parentheses is your dividend. And then the parentheses after your division symbol is your divisor. Now our divisor is just the variable minus a number. So that works out. It is a linear binomial. That's what you need to start synthetic division. To draw your synthetic division setup, first you're going to need a little half box. And then with some space underneath it, you're going to just draw a straight line across. Okay? Now you're going to flip the sign of your divisor's constant. Well, our divisor is x minus 4. Now the constant is this negative 4, so when we flip the sign, it becomes a positive 4. So that's what we put in our half box. Now we're going to check the dividend for any placeholder zeros. So if this starts with an x to the third, then we need to have an x squared piece, which we do. We need to have an x piece, which we also do. And then we also need a constant, which we do. So we have all of the pieces that we need. Now, with the dividend, you're going to write all of the coefficients of the dividend. So that's the numbers in front of the variable. So looking at this x to the third, technically in front of this is a 1. So I'm going to write that 1 down. In front of my x squared, I have a negative 11. So I got to make sure to write that negative in. If I don't, it'll mess everything up. In front of my x, I have a positive 27, so I'm going to write 27. If you want to write a plus here, you can. You don't have to. And then for my constant, we just have a 4, so that's my last number I write. Okay, now here we go. We're going to start synthetically dividing. So your first step is to bring down the first number under the line. So we're bringing down this 1 underneath our line. Now, what you're going to do for step number 7 is you're going to multiply this number you brought down by the divisor. Our divisor is 4, so we multiply by 4. 1 times 4 is 4, and we're going to write that 4 above our line underneath the next column of numbers. Okay, so we're writing it underneath this negative 11. Now you're going to add this column together and write its total underneath. Negative 11 plus 4, because this is a positive 4, gives us a negative 7. Okay, now we're going to repeat 7 and 8 until we're done. So now we're going to have to multiply this -7 by our divisor again, which is 4. So -7 times 4 is -28. All right. Now we're going to add 27 and -8. 27 minus 8, or plus -28, gives us a -1. And now we're going to multiply this -1 by our divisor. -1 times 4. So -1 times 4 gives us a -4. 4 minus 4 gives us 0. This 0 is your remainder. Okay, the last number is your remainder. Now, we have to write our answer as a polynomial, okay? And your polynomial starts 1 degree less than a dividend. Now, these numbers that we found, okay, I'm going to write a little love note here. These numbers that we found are, so let me pick this color, geez. So, these numbers that we found, let's make the arrow actually look like it's pointing. These numbers are our answers coefficients, or the numbers in front of our variables. Now our answer starts 1 degree less than the dividend. So if our dividend starts with an x to the third, our answer starts 1 degree less. So it has a coefficient of 1. 1 degree less of x to the third is x squared. Now, do we have to write a 1 in front of this x squared? No, we don't. But for time's sake, or just in general, so you guys don't get confused, we'll write that 1. Then we have -7. What's the next degree below x squared? An x. Then we have -1. The degree less than just an x is a constant number without an x. So this is your answer, 1x squared minus 7x minus 1. All right, let's try another example. Here we go. So we have x to the third plus 13x squared plus 28x minus 72 divided by x plus 9. So let's check. Is our divisor a linear binomial, or an x plus or minus some number? It sure is. So we can draw our synthetic division setup. Half box in your line. Now, our divisor in this case is x plus 9. So we have to flip the sign of the constant. So if this is a positive 9, when we flip it, we use a -9 when we synthetically divide. Now we're going to check our dividends for any 0 placeholders it needs. If we start with an x to the third, we need an x squared, and we have that. Then we need an x. We also have that. Then we need a constant. We have that. So we're good. Now we're going to write out the coefficients of our dividend. The number in front of x to the third is a 1. The number in front of x squared is a positive 13. The number in front of my x is a positive 28. And my constant is a negative 72. Don't forget that minus sign. All right, here we go. Now, our first step is we always bring down the first number under the line. So we bring that 1 under the line. Then we have to multiply that number we brought down by the synthetic division number. So we have to multiply by this -9. So 1 times -9 is -9, and we write that underneath our next number. Now we're going to add 13 plus a -9 gives us a 4. We're going to take that 4, multiply by our synthetic divisor, which is -9. So 4 times -9 is -36. Then we're going to add 28 plus -36 gives us a -8. Now we're going to multiply this 8 by the synthetic divisor, -9. So 8 times, -8, times -9, so times -9, gives us a positive 72. Negative 72 plus 72. Well, those cancel out, and now we have a 0. This 0 is your remainder. Now, if you have a remainder of 0, you're not going to be writing it in your in your answer. Okay, so our answer, we found the coefficients. The coefficients are 1, 4, and -8. Okay, so we have to start with that 1, and the 1's variable is going to be a degree less than the dividend. So if the dividend is x to the third, our answer starts with x squared. Our next number is 4, so we have a positive 4 here. Be careful. And the next variable would be x. Then we have a -8. Now the next variable after a singular x without an exponent is just a constant. We don't have to write a remainder, so this is our final answer. Okay, let's look at number 3. Here we go. We have x to the 4th plus x to the 3rd plus 73x squared plus 7x plus 13 divided by -x minus 8. Whew. Well, we're going to check if the divisor is a linear binomial, and it is. So we're going to draw our synthetic division setup. So you need to draw your little half box and your line. All right. Now, our synthetic, we are going to flip our divisors constant. So if this is a -8 here, inside of our half box, we put in a +8. Now we're going to check the dividend for any placeholders. So if it starts with x to the 4th, we need an x to the 3rd. We have that. Then we need an x squared. We have that. Then we need an x. We have that. After just an x is a constant, and we have that. So we have no 0 placeholders we need to write in. Now we're going to write in all the coefficients. So the coefficients of x to the 4th is a 1. The coefficient of x to the 3rd is a 1. The coefficient of x squared is a -73. The coefficient of your x is a +7. The coefficient of your constant is a +13. Okay, now we have to bring down our first number under the line. So we bring down that 1. Then we take that 1 and we multiply it by our divisor. So we're going to multiply by 8. So 1 times 8 is 8. Now we're going to add 1 plus 8. What is 1 plus 8? Do you guys know that? It's 9. Sorry. Then we do 9 times our synthetic divisor. So we do 9 times 8. 9 times 8 is 72. -73 plus 72 gives us a -1. We're going to take that -1, multiply it by our synthetic divisor. So -1 times 8 is -8. So 7 plus -8 gives us a -1. Now we have to do -1 times 8 again. So -1 times 8 gives us a -8. 13 plus a -8 gives us an answer of 5. This 5 is your remainder. Now our remainder isn't 0 this time, so we need to write it as part of our answer. So first things first, we have our constants we wrote out. So our first constant is a 1. Now, our answer starts 1 degree less than the dividend. So if the dividend starts with x to the 4th, our answer starts with x to the 3rd. Then we have a +9, so I write +9. The next variable is going to be x squared. We have a -1. We write that down. The next variable is just an x. We have a -1. After just an x is your constant value without a variable. Now we write our remainder, and just like we did the other day, you write this as R5. And here's your answer. X to the 3rd plus 9x squared minus x minus 1 with remainder 5. Okay, let's look at 4. So we have x to the 3rd plus 2x squared plus x divided by x minus 1. We're checking that our divisor is a linear binomial, and it is. So now we can draw our synthetic division signs. Half box and your line. We're going to flip the divisor's constant. So if we have a -1 here, when we flip it inside of our divisor box, it's just going to be a +1. Okay, now we're going to check our dividend for any missing terms, for any placeholders that we need to put in. So we have an x to the third, which means we need an x squared, and then we have an x, but we're missing something in the back here. We're missing the constant. Okay, so you're missing your constant. Use a 0. Okay, so the coefficient of x to the third is a 1. The coefficient of our x squared piece is a 2. The coefficient of our x piece is 1. And then that missing constant value is where we put that 0 in. All right, now we can start synthetically dividing. So we're going to bring down that first number, which is a 1. And we have to do 1 times our synthetic divisor. So 1 times 1, oh my gosh, I know this is hard. It's 1. 2 plus 1, okay, 2 plus 1 is 3. Then we have to take 3 and multiply it by synthetic divisor. So 3 times 1 is what? It's 3. Then we have 1 plus 3. Tell me, do you know what that is? It's 4. Then we have 4. 4 times our synthetic divisor, which is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. Now this 4, what is it called? It's our remainder. Now, these values in orange that we found are our coefficients for our answer. So, we are going to write out our answer. It is going to be 1. Then, our dividend that we divided starts with an x to the third, so that means our answer starts with x squared. Plus, we have a 3 next. 3x. We bring down the next term. Then we have a +4. This 4 is going to be your constant, and then our 4 in the back here in that little half box is our remainder. So we have a remainder 4. And this is your final answer. Okay, so your homework tonight is going to be a worksheet. Yay, yay. If you have any questions, let me know. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.